Welcome back to another series, second episode of the podcast, YAP podcast. And I'm back again with Leanna. We're going to do a little series on Ayurveda, yoga. Maybe today's conversation is going to be more around how did we approach this change in lifestyle? How did we come to Ayurveda, yoga, and how did we start to integrate these beautiful teachings and ways of living into our daily lives? So just want to say hello and welcome, Leanna, again. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Robyn. It's lovely to be here.
Oh, nice. So nice to be able to chat, and I feel like we could literally chat for hours on all
Yeah, we could. So that's we both say as well, don't we, on our little conversations beforehand, we should have pressed record then, because there's so many little golden things that come up.
Yes, it's infinite, isn't it? Because it's such
Yeah.
an interesting topic, and because it has changed our lives so much, and in, like we've said so many times, in such a subtle way, it does feel you feel very passionate about it because it's life changing, and it's nice to share what has been so impactful.
Yeah. And it changes everything. There's a saying that I love: there's no hiding from Ayurveda. And once the seed has been planted, it begins to unveil layers like an onion. Everything starts peeling back. And it might not be a quick change, but it's a change nonetheless. And it happens. And once the ball's rolling, there's no stopping it.
Yeah, it's so true. And I felt exactly the same with my connection to yoga. When I first started, I got obsessed with it. It was almost like it had grips on me. Every time I would come away from it, it would drag me back. It's like once you're on that pursuit of truth and purity in like a physical sense, in an energetic sense, in a mental level as well, it's like you do get addicted to it, because once you've seen that light and you've been close to that level of purity and truth and a cleanliness inside, it's like you want that, you crave that, and
it's almost like the answer your soul's been searching for. So then you grab it and it's like, I can't let go of this feeling.
Yeah, because you do feel closer to your soul. It's very true.
Yeah.
Like what you just said about it being, you come closer to your true nature, and how when you do these sorts of practices and you're coming into awareness of how you're treating yourself, what state you're in, what the imbalance is, and what you need to go to get back to that sense of foundation and centeredness and purity. It is you in that process of coming back to your essence, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Point.
And once you have that level of communication between your body and your mind and your mind and your soul, everything else feels out of balance when you move away from that. So it doesn't feel aligned.
Yeah, exactly.
When you then move backwards, it becomes uncomfortable.
Yeah, it really does. And it almost becomes, like you said earlier, a regret. You start to feel like, rather than it being something that before was like, oh, it's a little treat, I'll enjoy that, it becomes actually, do I want to live like that? Do I really enjoy that? Because you have the comparison of living in a way that's so beautiful and clean and pure and fresh. And when you come away from that, it's like you crave it. But I think
exactly. Yeah.
it would be nice for us to have a moment to say how we started, like why and how did we come to these paths, and how was the journey. I know you've got an insight on my side and how I started, but it would be nice to maybe start with how you approached it and like where you were at, and what drew you to start moving into this different kind of alternative. I hate saying that it's alternative, because it's like it's the most ancient.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's original.
Exactly.
It is. It's the original. It's not the alternative. When you think the Western medicine is the alternative. So my health journey has been quite a long one and an ongoing one. And that's where the Ayurvedic journey started, because for many, really, as far as I can remember, all the way back to childhood, I was always sickly. I was always on antibiotics. I was always had this infection, that infection. And I remember it really becoming a problem in my early 20s, when I was very much in my go-getter years, wanted to be out drinking, had a career, and I was just being slowed down by being sick all the time. And then I had my children fairly young, so I had my first son at 24. And by the time I had my third son, I was so unwell with each pregnancy. It was completely debilitating. And everything was going wrong. My skin was covered head to toe in rashes. It was horrendous. There wasn't a patch on my body that didn't have eczema and urticaria, and only somebody who suffered that could understand the level of mental torment that comes with that, because it's relentless. The itching and the pain it's non-stop and it doesn't let up. So from around, I would say, early to mid-20s, I was being given oral steroids, prednisolone. And I was using topical steroids from childhood, from very, very small. So after my third son, after that is when I really noticed the health decline. And in hindsight, the majority of my health decline at the time was, you could actually attribute that to the steroid use, because steroids are so disruptive to the endocrine system, to just the body's natural ways anyway. But they gave me so much relief that it was hard for me not to be on them. And I was also starting to have breathing issues as well, and I'd have severe asthma attacks, really severe. They'd put me into high dependency units. It was a regular thing for ambulances to be called to my home because I'd be struggling to breathe. And mid-30s this was.
Wow.
Yeah, up to mid-30s. And then I remember one day waking up, and it was like a light switch had gone on, and I just said, no more, I'm not doing this. I literally, like a moment of complete stubbornness, said, I'm not doing this. I can remember I was about 32, 33, and I looked at all this medication, and I was taking about 20 different tablets. And I was like, this isn't right. This isn't normal. I'm a young woman here with a family. And I started doing a bit of research, and I started looking at my diet and seeing what was going on, and trying to find out why I was feeling that way. And I had some insight to an extent, but I didn't really understand. But I was able to make a difference in my health, and it was settling down. But by the time things are that severe and there's that much toxins in the body, and this is actually, I think, might be relatable to some other people, you seem to get a little bit of relief and you think you've cracked it, and then it comes back.
Yeah. And
then it's terrible.
Worse. Yeah.
And you're devastated, and you think, I thought I cracked this. I thought I worked out that I can't eat tomatoes, or I can't drink alcohol. I thought I worked it out. And the reason why that happens is because all the toxins are sitting in the system. Yes, you are doing the right things, but your body needs a bit more help.
Yeah.
It needs more help. And it needs longer, and it needs expertise, and it needs deep cleansing with people who really truly know what they're doing. And my doctors, don't get me wrong, my GPs and everything, they were great, but all they knew what to do was to give me steroids. So I have always had an interest in medicine, and I can remember one day speaking to a friend of mine and saying, I wish I had become a doctor. It's what I always kind of wanted to do. And she said to me, I've always seen you do an Ayurveda. And I remember thinking, that's a strange word. What on earth is that?
Wow.
And I looked into it, and it really resonated with me. So I applied to study. And I remember thinking to myself, when I got all the information back, wow, this is actually really expensive. Because to study it correctly, you have to do a minimum of 3 years, and then ongoing study. And it was thousands running into tens of thousands. And I remember putting it out to the universe and saying, if this is meant to be for me, you will remove all obstacles. I'll leave it with you. And I got a full scholarship.
Oh, amazing.
So that was obviously, then I thought, okay, no, this must be it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I started learning about Ayurveda and implementing it into my life, I very quickly realized it was the first thing I'd ever done which had made lasting impact on my health, my physical health. It was the first thing that actually truly really did work. It's not, as I think I've said before, it's not an overnight change. Unlike, if you take antibiotics or steroids, you get an instant hit. It's not going to do that. However, it changes everything long term. It really does. To see the difference from my skin then to now, it's quite shocking. actually. I was covered in red welts from head to toe, and it was embarrassing. I didn't want to go out when I was like that, and I didn't want people to see me. And sometimes I think that skin conditions are actually, they are some of the worst that you can suffer with, because of the not only the intense pain and itching, but the embarrassment, the embarrassment of the shame. And quite often people with skin conditions, the reason why they get them in the first place is because they're suppressing and hiding the truth of their emotions. And when it shows in the skin, you've got no choice. The whole world can see it.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yes, and that becomes a real, very hard place for people when they've done all the years of suppression of their emotions. So it's taken time, but I truly understand now what my body will tolerate in terms of foods and how I eat. And I know if I have I don't even have flares anymore, but if I do have a little flare, I can say, okay, you know, I've been on holiday, I've flown, I've eaten fast food, I've not taken care of myself. It was worth it, but now back to business, back to taking care of myself. There are certain things within Ayurveda, particularly within Dinacharya and daily routine, which I cannot live without anymore. I just can't. They're so important in my health. Like you say, the second you move away, you wonder why you ever did that. It's not a treat to stop doing things that are good for you. I don't know why we think it is.
I think because it's like there's this level of it's a chore, and it's something I have to do, and there's a part of us that wants to fight against that. It's like a why?
Yeah, a bit of rebellion.
Yeah. But when you do listen to that voice, it's the same as like when you're going to the gym and the PT is telling you need to eat this certain food and you need to do these amount of reps. It's like, nah, I don't want to do it. And once you start to see results and you start to see your body changing and you feel different, that's when you get the gratification. And all of this work is the same. I love referring it to the gym because so many people are obsessed with getting their bodies in a certain shape and looking a certain way. Again, it being about the outside rather than what's happening inside. But it's all about that longevity of the actions that you're taking and the actions that you're doing compounding over several years, days, months, and having that longer standing lifestyle change that brings
and consistency.
The gratification at the end and towards like the compounded days that you spent devoting, caring, supporting yourself, rather than just taking that instant gratification of, oh, I'll just take that steroid, or I'll just take that plaster that's resolving the issue now. So the whole point of these practices and these sciences, Ayurveda, yoga, is all about that lifestyle and living in a way that's kind and compassionate and conscious. And that's what a lot of people don't want to put the effort into. But I think
we've been brought up as well, Robyn, to live with instant gratification. Everything is instant knowledge, instant food, even instant light. Our ancestors didn't have, once it got dark and they had their candles and that was it. Everything is so instantaneous and we have that expectation, but that's been ingrained. And one of the things I see a lot in people's Ayurvedic journeys is undoing of that expectation and getting them to understand that, yes, this will work. Yes, it takes time. We can actually make you feel better quite quickly, but in terms of true, real healing and change, that takes as long as your body needs, particularly if it's had 2 decades of really severe imbalance. It's not going to change overnight.
Exactly. And also another thing I always think of, what have your grandparents been through? What was their constitution? What did they work through that they've given to you through your DNA? It's like, it's not always just necessarily something that you've done in your lifetime, but stuff that's been compounded over lifetimes of your generation. And we're trying to clear stuff like that. And it's
absolutely
deep work, isn't it? It's the most
7 generations back is what we bring into clear, and the work that we do will impact 7 generations forward.
How powerful.
Even your Prakriti, which your dosha at birth is determined by your parents and their imbalance at the moment of conception. If they were angry, if they were sad, if they were joyous, if they were happy, that will impact your future health.
Wow. Yeah, because it's like the seed of the essence that you are.
It's exactly that. The bija, the seed, the essence.
Yeah,
It's exactly that.
I think what you just said there as well about like making sure that like coming at it from a longer standing point of view and putting the effort in to see, sometimes it can be very instantaneous, like changing out the diet for me when I first started working with you. And I was at a point where I was having a lot of gut issues, I was having lots of hormonal problems. And like you said, the hormonal work is the deepest layer, the reproductive,
Mm.
that's going to take the longest amount of time. And I feel for the most part it's 90% better, but I still feel like I can work a little bit further. And the first thing that I really struggled with was changing the diet, because I'd told myself eating like raw vegan was the most healthy for me. It was clean, it was
Mm.
pure, there's nothing else in it. And in fact, it was creating so much dampness, coldness, and extra work, inflammation, because of the digestive fires needing to kick up. It was like I couldn't understand why it wouldn't work for me. And then having to restructure again, because a lot of us that are on these paths, like that are working through different problems and we've got different things that we're trying to heal, we have already tried loads of different things, and it's almost like we get to a point of exhaustion or frustration that I've tried all these things, why is it not working? And then I felt at that point like, oh, for God's sake, like I just need something to work now. I'm fed up of having tried this diet, that thing, da 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 da. But for you to do that analysis of me and to say, these are the food lists that you can have, these are food lists that you can't have. But my body was so used to having the foods that weren't good for me. It was like I had to retrain my mind to be like, it's okay to move away from what you thought was good for you, and almost like step away from this whole identity that I'd created. And because I wasn't eating meat at that time, and you said it would be so
No,
helpful for
no.
you to eat a little bit of meat, and the thought of
Yeah,
meat was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to be good. And I was really struggling, but slowly. And that's another reason why it's these practices are so beautiful, because they are very gentle, and it's whatever you want to put in is what you're going to get out. So you're again meeting yourself at a deeper level of where do you want to take this to, because you can go
yeah.
fully in and trust and listen to the protocols that needs to be followed, or you can take your time again and resist it. And that's
Exactly, and that can end up being that's a waste of your time if you resist it too hard,
yeah,
and you think of it that
that's
way, your
exactly
time,
how I
your
felt.
money.
Yep.
And one of the things I actually wanted to ask you from what you were just saying is when you said you'd felt like this was good for you in terms of eating the raw
Yeah,
and the smoothies at the time and the salads. Who made you think that?
I think because I'd
Why
done
did you
so
think
much
that?
research into things, and it was like you're taking on the energy of the animal that has been killed.
Yeah.
And I'd watched all these things like Cowspiracy and all these different programs that
Ah,
I
okay.
listened to.
Which,
Yeah, and then I felt
which I
like,
was going to say, it is true.
yeah,
In that those, one of the major issues with the meat industry is how they're treated, as
yeah,
opposed to we do have recipes for meat in Ayurveda, but we agree it's on the consciousness. However, the way we're living, we're not living in a puritanical conscious fashion anyway.
mm,
So it would be different if we were living in an ashram. No, we probably wouldn't want to eat meat, but the Robyn that I met at that time was not living in an ashram. She was living in Chingford. And
exactly.
she needed to be able to weather the storms that come with living in Chingford.
Yeah,
The Western lifestyle, the energy, the way we live, all of those things. So you needed that level of groundedness. And also, one of the things that we're looking at in Ayurveda is not just the person's prakriti and their bodily composition. We're looking at what's around them. We're looking at the weather. We're looking
mm,
at what they do for their job. We're looking at all of those things and taking into consideration those changes and how that affects their energy and what they can eat in that respect. So that's why the raw diet doesn't work really for the Brits. It
yeah,
doesn't work in the UK. It might, you quite often, the people I see on social media who do promote the raw diets. They live in hot countries.
Yeah. And
it's
even that,
successful for them and even then it's not great.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be as terribly imbalancing for them as it will be if you're living here.
Somewhere cold. Yeah, exactly. Because I think it was around like late winter, early spring that I actually had come to you, because I had been struggling so much, and I had just moved back from Spain at that time, but I was really struggling, and I'd felt so imbalanced, and I was practicing a lot of vinyasa and all of this inflammatory, unsupportive things I was doing, which I thought were helpful. And I always remember you saying to me, stop self-prescribing yourself supplements, because you're taking supplements and you don't even know that you're taking them correctly for what you need. And that's when you started to teach me about my constitution and actually diagnosing what was going on, starting with that first layer of the diet. And then I'd also started to learn more about yoga in a deeper level with the traditional hatha yoga, and that was the same thing. Why are you practicing? What are you doing this for? What are you taking these like supplements, your yoga practice, for? What is it actually doing to your body, and are you doing it in the correct way rather than just throwing something at yourself to try and figure out what will work? It's like really what you do need.
One of the things I like to say a lot is not everything that's healthy is healthy for you.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Because it's not.
Yeah.
Just because it's a healthy tomato does not mean it's good for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and it might be a healthy smoothie. Yeah, no, it's probably not.
Yeah.
And with the supplement market, one of the things we have to remind ourselves is it's now a $1 billion industry. As with most things, it's now profit.
Yeah.
So, is it right for me at this right time?
Yep.
You have to take that into consideration. B, is my digestion able to cope? Is it able to absorb it?
Yep.
The saying that we like to use is expensive urine. When people come in and they have a whole bag of supplements that cost them 70, 80 pounds a month, and I look at their tongue and I can see they're not able to absorb anything they're putting into their body.
Yep.
So all they're doing is urinating that money out down the toilet.
Yeah, exactly.
That's literally, it is a waste. If your digestive function is not optimal, it is a waste of your time. There are some supplements and vitamins that are okay to take and you will absorb some of them, but again, it's understanding it in the right way. So for example, vitamin D needs to be taken with K2.
Yeah.
If you don't take it with K, you're not going to absorb. Certain minerals should be taken with fats, some should be taken with water. So it's about their ability to absorb, and we're not taught that either. We're just sold them over the counter.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem as well with that kind of going towards the medical and like pharmaceutical industry, and just trusting, okay, well, this should work, and to some part it does, but then what's the fallout of that? What is it actually doing? Is it really hitting the root cause? And that's why all of this is a lifestyle change. And I think that's the thing that most people don't realize, that you need to accept that you have to change your entire lifestyle. And that's what I had to go through at the beginning. It's like everything that I'd created thinking I was healthy, I had to drop it and restart again from scratch, almost, to the most part. And that for me was quite frustrating.
This is where Ayurveda is quite beautiful, because with you did need to change your lifestyle, but that's because your lifestyle was really wrong at the time.
Yeah.
I have seen and given treatment where the lifestyle doesn't actually have to change that dramatically. So it's not always a really big shift. Sometimes we can make really big impact with very small protocols, particularly where children and teenagers are factored in, and quite often men, because men aren't necessarily as flexible as us women. If I have a man in clinic and I ask them, I say, you've got to do this, this and this, you need to do Abhyanga every morning, you need to do Nadi Shodhana, you need to do this and that, he's going to go, no, I ain't doing that. And especially, if they're ordinary blue collar people, and I still want to treat those people. So the beauty is I can adapt. Ayurvedic treatment
Yep.
to not need the very deep changes in terms of complete lifestyle 180s.
Yeah.
And it does and can work, but where the complete overhaul is needed is when you really want long-term stability and health.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when there's no avoiding those things.
Yeah. And I think also when you start to see your health changing, that's when you trust in the process of that lifestyle change.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
for me, it took quite a while for me to shift over, especially with like the diet side of things, of because I would sometimes only eat one meal a day, and it would be a big salad, like really raw food, and it was just not sustaining me. And when your body's not being sustained at that level, you you don't have extra energy to then start doing deep processes of healing and changing in that way. You need that sustenance. And I think if we can understand that this is ancient knowledge and we can apply it in a modern day way with small tweaks, it doesn't have to seem like such a massive shift. It can be something that we subtly
Yeah.
time, and it's more gentle.
Yeah.
May not be as powerful as, like you said, taking the steroid or taking the medication that you instantly see a change, but it's having that mindset of coming at things from 80-20, like, okay, I'm going to give it 80% of my effort to add in and change these things and build up towards that. And it's more of a gentle process. And I think this is what you were saying earlier as well with your clients. You try to get them to that point of it being like, okay, do it 80% of the time if you can. 20% of the time, give yourself that grace. And then generally in that 20%, when you're not doing it and you start to see and feel the changes happening, you don't actually want to do the things that you used to do anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. 80-20 is a really important rule in my clinic. Unless you come to see me with a real chronic condition, then you'll be given the 80-20 rule and being told, if you follow what I tell you 80% of the time and 20% of the time you relax and do as you please, you will feel great. And eventually what starts to happen is they suddenly go from 80-20 to 90-10 and eventually 95-5. And those moments where they go back to their old habits, they soon realize, okay, this doesn't feel good, because the gut and the brain are now connected. Whereas before they weren't speaking to each other. And then when they do become speaking to each other, you will discover that you can't then, for example, for me, I can't drink a glass of orange juice. I can't drink pineapple juice. Well, I used to love those, like really, I like pineapple a lot. But pineapple, it's not surprising I like pineapple, because it's one of those things that take me out of balance, and we will crave those things that take us out of balance. Okay. So things like pineapple juice, I know if I drink that, I'm going to have inflammation in my skin, so I just don't touch it. It's not worth it. And eventually that same thing happens with everybody else. But I wanted to quickly go back to a point that you mentioned earlier, because I thought it was a really interesting thing for a lot of people right now. And you said about what was it you said about these changes and how they anchor us in. A lot of women in particular, people in general, but I think a lot of the feminine are going through an awakening of sorts, and they're doing the inner work. That's what you were talking about. They're doing the inner work. They're going really in, bringing up all the emotion and then trying to process it. That's happening to a lot of people in society right now, and it's about the evolution and the shift in our generation. And where Ayurveda and Dinacharya can be really beneficial is during those moments where we almost feel so unstable because we've brought all this emotion up and we don't know what to do with it. That's where Ayurvedic routine, I think, is a superstar. Because it gives you the anchoring, it gives you the stability to weather the storm, and it just means that those processes are less aggravating.
And
that's what I've noticed.
You have something to keep you in check. That's exactly
Absolutely
the yoga side of things. Like if I don't practice every day, I will feel it, and I notice it now because I've been doing it for years daily. It's if I don't practice it, it's almost like you want to. There's a little fly buzzing around me.
I know, I see him.
You almost feel the craving of that stability, and that's why it is like you're looking at your life from a holistic lens of what lifestyle am I choosing to support me in the long run, so that I do feel this sense of stability, anchoredness, and groundedness. And I've just been away on a hen party, and that was completely like random. There was some routine to some degree, but obviously you're going to bed at different times, waking up, eating different foods, you're in a different environment, you're doing different activities from your usual. And a few of the girls there, they struggle with ADHD. And I was saying to them, when I didn't practice before and I didn't have these routines, I felt like that. I felt unstable. I felt chaotic. I felt all over the place. Nothing kind of seemed to be moving forward like this. It just felt like it was constantly up and down. And as women, a lot of people have said to me, no, I don't believe this. Like when I've posted stuff on Instagram, that women need a regular, stable, masculine structure to be able to feel supported in those fluctuations of emotions, in the fluctuations of our cycle. And when we are doing the deeper healing work, we are unearthing such deep things within us that sometimes it's like we've been carrying through our generations. It's You need to have that structure of routine, of practices that are bringing you back to your health, of things that are stabilizing your mind in order to be able to weather those big, drastic sometimes changes. And I think that's why it's so,
What we're being asked to do as a generation as well is huge.
yeah,
We shouldn't underestimate that. What in particularly this generation in this time is being asked to do some massive work.
yeah,
And I think that shows in the instability of our external world in terms of our governments, our financial systems, and just our economics in general is so unstable at present. And that is reflected on the internal work we're being asked to clear. So we need that structure in order to manage it. And it's big stuff.
Yeah, it is. And also when you're going through that alone without any stability, without any grounding, you're just kind of getting up, getting on with your day and just going to work or doing the things that you feel like you need to tick off, and you're not tending to yourself, there is this lack of grounding, and there is this lack of connection to the inner. And then on top of that, we've all got something that we're working with. There's always something that was either within our mental health, our physical health, that we're slightly working with to whatever extreme we're in. And to have something that keeps that constant and keeps this, just this level of inner connection is so important at this point in time, because we don't have necessarily much truth in our governmental support. There's a lot of corruption and there's a lot of disingenuous people out there. And if we can know ourselves more deeply internally, and we can come to this level of purity through the practices that we're doing, the cleanses we're working on, we're understanding what our health journey is trying to show us at a deeper level, we're tapping back into what we said at the beginning, that true nature, that inner truth. And that is ultimately what this is all guiding us back to, this level of connection back to source and truth, which is what you beautifully said just before I started recording.
We promise we'll start pressing the record button before we even, in fact, do it and don't tell me, Robyn.
Yeah, I'll just put it in the bloopers.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like we could have so much conversation around this.
We could talk all day, and I really enjoy this conversation. And I think it's important as women as well, because the work we're doing now, what we do, we won't be passing on to the next generation. That's why it's so important.
Yeah,
It makes it easy. It makes it easier for them, for what we leave for them, but also for them to, children in the younger generation. Even if you don't have your own children, you are around children. You're still an inspiration to them. They look up to you.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
look up. They watch.
Yeah.
They see. That's how they learn. That's children mimic.
Yeah.
So the younger generations, they are becoming more awakened and aware of self than ever.
Absolutely.
Which is incredible.
Yeah, it is.
Because we were told, self was selfish, and self is the last thing we should be treating. And look where that's left us.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's not left us, and that's certainly what happened with my health.
Yeah.
I was the very last on my priority, so I was continually pouring from an empty cup.
Yeah.
And that got me nowhere.
Yeah, how do we progress if we're not looking after ourselves?
No, we end up in burnout.
Yeah.
We end up in burnout. But we also need to be careful. I could be moving here into a whole huge subject matter. We need to be careful about what we're consuming in terms of intellectually, in terms of the social media, because that health industry is now $1 billion industry. There is a lot of information out there about what you should be doing and shouldn't be doing. So I would say we have to be very careful about what we're absorbing and the expectations. That's it. That's where I was going with that. The expectations we place on ourselves because of the Instagrammable lives and advice that we see on there. And one of the core aspects of Ayurveda is it is not one size fits all.
Yes.
Okay. That is it for humanity. There is no one size fits all.
Yeah.
So whatever you're seeing online, take that with a pinch of salt. Whatever you're seeing in terms of your research, take it with a pinch of salt, because what's good for one person isn't necessarily good for another.
Yeah.
And that is the core tenement, or one of the core aspects of Ayurveda, is to understand that. And that's why it works, is because what I advise you, Robyn, I wouldn't necessarily advise the next person who came with the exact same symptoms, because they're a different person. And they have a different lifestyle, and they got to that place of imbalance through a different route.
Yep. And that's the main thing that I felt was when I started working with you, it was like I had to really look at what I was choosing in my lifestyle, and what had I built up over that level of time to get my body in that position, because I had so much issue with my gut, my sleep. I was having really bad insomnia. I was getting really bad panic attacks. I had so much anxiety. I was feeling really cold all the time. My body was freezing cold, even though I was living in Spain. At one point, my body was freezing cold, and it's like 40 degrees. It was just like, what makes sense for one person, and you're trying to slap this label on to everyone. It's so individualized, and that's also the beautiful thing with with my yoga journey. It's taken me a long time to find this style of teaching and practicing, but it's like from one moment to the next, when I found it, it was like, oh my god, this is what I've been missing. This is the information that's been void in my previous trainings and the previous angle of approach that I had. And that's what is so beautiful about yoga and Ayurveda. It's specifically for you, to bring you back to your truth and your essence, and to help you unwind where you're at now. And it's so bespoke, and it's a science. And I think people don't realize that they see it as
It
alternative
is a science.
medicine, but it's a science, and it's an approach. Like, when I try to teach my classes, it's like, we're doing this for this purpose. You need your body to move in this way, you need your breath to move in this way, and then we go deeper into the subconscious through the meditation and the mind in this way. And all of this amounts to this outcome. It's like a chemical reaction. It's the same with Ayurveda.
It's not just a science, it's a technology. This
Yes.
is what people don't realize. It is a technology that we're dealing with when it comes to yoga and Ayurveda. They were written as technologies and keys for the body. They are the keys.
Yeah.
We aren't healing anybody by doing what we do. We are giving them the key to unlock and heal themselves.
Yeah, and to bring them back.
That's exactly what it is.
Natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people will relate to what you said about doing everything you can and thinking you're doing the right thing, and thinking, I'm eating so healthily, I'm doing yoga, I'm living in the sun, I'm doing all of this. Why am I still sick?
Exactly.
Why am I still suffering? There will be so many people out there right now, particularly people who are really taking care and being super careful with what they put into their mouths, who are suffering with bloating, who are suffering with anxiety and panic attacks, because what they're doing, they've been given the information of all, one size fits all, and it just doesn't work for them.
Yeah, exactly. And they think that they're doing something good. For example, the amount of people that used to come to yoga when I was doing vinyasa, and they love it. They really felt like they got something really good out of it. And I was feeling like, there's something missing. There's something missing in this, because it's like it's fast flow. You're sweating.
Yeah.
You've got all this intense energy. Majority of people here do not need any additional stimulation to the nervous system. They need to ground. They need to calm.
slowing down.
Yeah, and stillness, steadiness. Bring your mind to this point, not keep moving. And that's the whole problem. Like, we think we're doing these things correctly, but actually we're just following another trend. And really, if we understand why are we doing something and what's the benefit, what's the purpose, and what is wrong, not wrong, sorry, that's the wrong word. What is it that I'm trying to rebalance in myself? What is it that I'm going to that's actually creating more of the problem? Then we can start to move forward. But it's simple.
We live such a fast-paced life as well.
Mm.
Yeah, we live such a fast-paced life in the West, in the UK. The last thing we should be doing is then fast-paced in our downtime. We need the opposite.
Yeah.
And it's in Ayurveda says that we bring in opposite qualities to relieve the imbalance. So if a person is suffering with anxiety, coldness, panic, that sort of thing, we need to bring in opposite qualities, and those are grounding, slowing down qualities. In the same way, if somebody's dealing with severe inflammation, the last thing we want to do is give them things that are going to heat them up further. You know, we don't want to be giving them those things. We need to be giving them cooling things and telling them to go swimming and to take away goals from their workouts. For example, don't have a goal. Do something that's goalless.
Yeah.
Go for a dance.
Yeah.
And it's such a, like, that's the complete opposite of what I think and I've told myself I should be doing. But the opposites are how we pacify the imbalance.
Yeah. And it almost feels wrong when, like, when you first told me, is that you need to cook all of your food. Don't have anything raw. You need to maybe add a little bit of white meat in and eating all these certain things. And you need to do, I think at that time I wasn't doing any yoga because I had fallen out of connection with it, because I was getting more ill and I was feeling like it's not right here. So I just felt disconnected from it. But you were saying to me that you need to practice more gently and do all these sorts of things and slow everything down, because my body was so inflamed. And yeah, I think it's just, if we can bring it back to that awareness of lifestyle and the routine choices that we're slowly building in, we don't have to make it complicated. It can be something very subtle, and over time compound it. And I think that's what's really what you're teaching in the workshop is, how is it relevant to you at this point now? And what I teach within the yoga, like, at least if you're bringing yourself in alignment with the season that you're in, and you're balancing yourself to the seasonal changes, that's going to give you some relief. If you're not going to practice in a deeper way of utilizing this really deep ancient knowledge that is there, but we just have to commit to ourselves and go into that little layer deeper of bringing more energy in to devote back to ourselves. And I think that's the whole thing. Like, how much do you want to devote to yourself?
There's no race to the finish line either.
Yeah.
It can be such a small thing to implement.
Yeah.
It could be 3 minutes Nadi Shodhana. It could be 10 minutes of your practice. It could be so small, but as you said earlier, it's the consistency that matters.
Yeah. And the length of time that you're letting yourself stay.
Yeah. And it will build. It will build. Because it can be so daunting making all of these changes.
That's what I felt like at the beginning. Because I felt like you were telling me to change everything.
I was, I think.
And
at the time, you know, you needed the help at the time. So when people come to me and they are really struggling, I do tell them to change everything. But in terms of long-term life change, it's different, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate it now. Like, the work that we did and the changes that I made then, although it was difficult and I was really resistant, it feels really like it doesn't feel like an effort now. It feels like a joy to do.
Yeah. Jai Gurudev, that's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And my teacher always says you go from abhyasa to vairagya, and at the beginning you start with abhyasa, which is you're putting in ardent effort and you're using your willpower and you're just showing up because you need to, and it doesn't matter what it looks like. you're just doing your practice, or you're doing your routines, you're changing your diet, you're just doing the things and you're going through the motions. And then over time, that slowly shifts and changes into vairagya, which is this devotion and this joy and this love. And it's almost like it becomes a piece of you because you feel so good from it. It's like you don't want to lose that. And I feel like I'm more towards that level now.
Yeah, the devotion to the practice is where the true beauty lies of it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Aww.
I could talk all day long, so I'm hoping we can do another one of these.
Yeah, we'll arrange another date soon. And I'll put all the details for your workshop again in the notes on YouTube. If you want to get in touch with Leanna or myself, all the details are going to be in the show notes at the bottom. Leanna's got a workshop coming up soon in 2 weeks now.
Only a couple of weeks, 26th of July, I think.
Okay.
I think we've got 5 spaces left at the moment. So
perfect. And Leanna's going to go into much more detail about your dosha, your constitution, and how implementing these beautiful practices can be very simple but very life-changing. So if you want more information, please give Leanna a message, drop a DM. And if you wanted to get more into your yoga practice and understand the benefits of using your yoga practice to support you, as well as the Ayurveda, yoga is my side of the fence. So again, drop us any messages that you might have. And we hope you enjoyed listening. Thank you so much, Leanna. It's such a joy to
Thank you for having me again.
I'll speak to you soon, and we'll arrange another one
soon. Been lovely. Speak to you soon.